Hello everyone, this is A7X Van Ben, and I wanted to just make a little video drawing some attention to what I consider a little bit more obscure tips on playing the game and setup and things like that. So I have a post on my site, Pirates with Ben, about what to always have with you when you're going to play a game of Pirates CSG. Under the advanced section, there's some stuff that I think usually doesn't get thought of, understandably. Most casual games, you wouldn't care about this anyway, but there are a handful of things that can bring in stuff from outside the game. So, for example, there's a couple of mysterious islands that allow you to bring in events or unique treasures from outside the game. Even if you're not contributing any of those, your opponent might be. So it's good to always have like a little event bag with whatever event tokens you have. And you could do the same thing for unique treasures. I usually have a stack of unpunched or repunched unique treasures in one of my primary play tins, which you can see kind of in the picture there. Kind of most of the bulk of those cards are actually unique treasures. They used to be shipped deck plates, but then I kind of switched those out. So this way you'll be ready in case there's a generative mysterious island or something like Pandora's box, which brings in unique treasure from outside the game as well. So that way you can have some of your favorites available in case you want them, or stuff that you might want an opponent to get if they pull Pandora's box that they contributed and you didn't even know was in the distribution, so you're ready. And then another random one is the Castaway unique treasure from Revolution, which allows you to bring in a 3-point crew or less from outside the game, and the faction actually changes to match the nationality of your ship that loads the UT. So you can actually put something like Bianco's Haulers from Savage Shores on like a cursed ship, for example. Can't be shot at while docked. So there's a lot of good named crew options. Of course, you can always go with a basic captain, or you could even do a 2 or 1 point crew if you wanted to, like Lucky the Parrot, or maybe a helmsman if you lost one in a whirlpool, things like that. But there's a lot of good named crew that are good to have on hand. One of my favorites is actually the ghost crew version of Phantasma, which is like the promo version from Spanish Main. So the regular one I think has Home Island Raider for 4 points, but this one's only 3. So you can bring in a Home Island Raider with the Castaway UT, not to mention Same Action Twice, which is the same thing as Born Leader, the +2 gold ability, or Bianco's Haulers to not be shot at while docked. Those are some popular options as well. And of course, the Americans have a couple crew that have Eternal for only 2 or 1 point. So just some good stuff to have on hand. And some of these things are not all that rare in case you encounter these UTs. You'll at least have something nice to be able to bring in with it. Of course, crew are more easily proxied than unique treasures, so you could just bring mostly the UTs, and then for crew you could always just have like a little index card that you might write the crew name on or whatever, if as long as proxies are okay, which they usually are in my experience. So moving on to the next one also has to do with crew. So it's important to know what crew you see in your opponent's fleet, and there's some discrepancies on flags. So the most notable is generally from Caribbean. So you probably already know this, but Caribbean, the flags changed. So if you see a pirate flag or an English flag that looks like these alternates with the swords on the pirate flag, or the blue, the Union Jack with the blue rather than the white, or just the Union Jack in general, I should say, on an English crew, you know those crew are from the Caribbean set, which can help you narrow down who they might be. It might be more likely to be Lord Cutler Beckett, or in the case of the Pirates, it could maybe be Calypso or 058 Captain Jack Sparrow with that UPS ability. And this is good just to kind of narrow down what kind of face down crew you might be seeing in the enemy fleet. And one thing I've noticed is over the years, I feel like more people nowadays keep their crew unpunched, which is okay. But there's a few things to that get a little funky. So obviously the main one is that if they have all their face down crew underneath their deck plate, you can't see what they have. So you have to ask them, they have to divulge. It's public information how many crew are on each ship after the setup phase is fully complete. Because it says put them face down on the deck plate of the ship to which you assign them. They have to tell you basically how many crew are on each ship and what factions all of those crew are. Like they might have 2 mercenary crew and 3 pirate crew, but then you can go a step further and ask if any of the pirate crew have the Caribbean flag, because that would also be a visual tell of what it might be. So these are questions you can ask an opponent, especially if they've got their crew kind of hidden or whatever. So that's just something good to know. And then getting even more detailed is that the mercenary crew that come with the Ten Masters and Savage Shores, the Shui-Jan and Celtic Fury, they are unique in that they don't have a black border around the flag artwork. So you see how on the left, that's actually a face-down Shaping Zai, the named crew that links to the Shui-Jan from the Savage Shores set. And he's actually one of the best mercenary crew because he's got Captain and Expatriate and the sack ability. So he essentially gives a sack captain to every faction because of the Expatriate keyword. So in this case, the artwork extends past the regular black border. Like on these, you can see where the cutout would be, and there's like a black border that encapsulates both the flag artwork and that like bluish like sky background or whatever. So these two specific crew from Savage Shores are unique in that they don't have that. So if you see this, you know that it's one of these very specific two crew, one of the 10-mast linked crew from Savage Shores. So it's another little random, somewhat obscure tidbit. Another thing you can do that I haven't actually fully done yet is memorize all the mysterious island shapes and what effects they correlate to. So for example, in the master spreadsheet, when I refer to like mysterious island number 1 or number 4 or whatever in some of my fleets on either this channel or on PSM list, this is what I'm talking about. So they got numbered quite a while back. I think the default numbering scheme was established based on shapes from like Crimson Coast or whatever, I don't know which set, way back in the day. And so that's kind of where that came from. But so when you see something like Mysterious Island, I think the top one is possibly the 4th one. So it says, I'll zoom in here, it says move an opposing ship using her base move. So I think that's so that's number 12, I think. Let me see if I get this. Oh, that one's an MI one, so never mind. So it looks like that one's number 13, I think. So for every 4 to 6 result, eliminate one of the ship's mass on the negative. Yeah. So that one's Mysterious Island number 13. So then you can go through your MIs. Obviously, it's easier when they're punched out. This is just I'm just using this because it was an easy picture I had of all this when I scanned all the MIs from that set. But you can see this shape and then know that on the back side of it, you could almost use it as like flashcards for study if you're like going really crazy competitive. Usually I just memorize the ones I'm using so that if an opponent includes their own, I know which ones I want to go to specifically. So there's certain shapes correspond to certain effects. So you want to know that, especially if you're using those mysterious islands, so you don't get mixed up or confused, especially if A, you're using more than one shape that you're contributing, or B, if your opponent contributes mysterious islands as well, and they're different shapes than the ones that you put in. So it's good to know at least what you're putting in, and preferably some more beyond that. So, or in general, it can be just good to memorize the shapes of the islands that have the craziest effects, like this one, when you get to replace a treasure coin with a unique treasure from your collection, kind of like what I talked about earlier with having unique treasures on standby. So, and then one of the last ones I'll mention is, I'm almost hesitant to mention it, but in 2024, I'm trying to be complete here and tie up all loose ends and just go all out with the game in as many ways as possible. So you may have already known this. It's not a big secret. I just haven't seen people talk about it really. The coin backs from the Fire and Steel set specifically are a lighter shade than the coin backs of other sets. So if you see coins, this is a really blurry picture from a while back of a Fire and Steel treasure card. So if you see a coin back, it almost looks like it has a faded sheen, not a faded sheen, but a faded color, like a little bit of a lighter yellowish gold. It's probably from the Fire and Steel set. I can't recall exactly if Savage Shores had that as well, the final set, but I know for a fact, I think all Fire and Steel coins have that lighter color, which gets really gamey. That's why I almost didn't mention it, is because you could gamify this and be like, include, this is where it gets ugly. And there's, Wolf has talked about this, where he talks about, yeah, in organized play, all treasure tokens contributed by a single player must have identically colored backs. So it's kind of difficult because then you might include regular coins from all the other sets, but then you might include a unique treasure from Fire and Steel, and then you accidentally know where the Turtles UT is because it happens to be the top coin on a wild island. Or when you spread out the treasures on the islands, if you happen to spread them out so they're not in just like uniform piles of 4, you might be able to see that there's like only one coin, or maybe there's like 4 coins in play that have this lighter colored back. So it's kind of iffy and kind of gamey. You could kind of go a little too far with this. I usually just try to ignore it, or use, one way is to use multiple coins of both colors, and then it's harder to determine something like that. So this is kind of a weird thing in the game, a little bit unfortunate actually as well. But the other thing where you can gamify this even more is, according to the master spreadsheet, I don't know if it's 100% accurate, but it should be. There's no 7s in the Fire and Steel set that I'm aware of. So normally in the other sets, except for I think Spanish Main, they usually went up to 7, and you would see 7s on specifically unique treasures. So normally most of the sets have coins of values 1 through 7. Fire and Steel is unique in that there's no 7s, but there's also a bunch of 0s. So the treasure cards with the 0s are likely to be the lighter color gold. And I mean, there are some 0s in Savage Shores, so it's not set in stone, but you essentially know that if you see a lighter colored treasure back that should be from Fire and Steel, that it won't be a 7, which could get gamey as well in terms of like seeing the treasure distribution of face down coins, and then being able to kind of deduce, if that's not a 7, maybe you put in a 7 and then it has to be somewhere else on a different island if there's only lighter colored coins on that island or whatever. Or you see your opponent pick up treasure and then the one that they don't take is the one that's the lighter color. Maybe it's a 0, things like that. So it's just a little weird. So I'd recommend try to not abuse this, but try to have good sportsmanship with it. But I'm just trying to go all out this year and bring as many things up as possible. So anyway, just some little obscure gameplay tips. There's a lot other ones. I just wanted to go with some of the kind of the weirder or potentially more obscure ones, or things that I've found interesting over the past year or so. Question of the day would be, what would you think is the most like obscure, like little knowledge or gameplay tidbit, preferably that applies to gameplay, like whether it's memorizing the shapes of the MIs. Maybe it's like, maybe there's some Savage Shores Mysterious Islands that have the same shape as the ones from Mysterious Islands, but then the symbol on the back of the island is different, or it's not there, or whatever. Things like that, just like little weird little tidbits, and like the flags. I guess another one would be cursed crew, or not just cursed, but if crew are really scratched up, they're more likely to be from the Davy Jones Curse set, or maybe the South China Sea set, because those sets, especially Davy Jones Curse, by far were very prone to having paint or whatever scratched off. So if you see a really scratched crew chip on an enemy deck plate, it's more likely to be from one of those sets. Those are the kinds of things I'm talking about. So feel free to leave your answers to that question of the day in the comments below. If you can come up with anything that you've seen in your games, I'd be extremely happy to hear about it. And beyond that, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in more Pirates videos. Thanks for watching.